Bricks and Minifigs paying out reckless Ben and damages day after day. We're going to get at it today on The Legal Mindset, where we teach you to be your own judge. I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney. And today I want to react to a video that actually asks a lot of really good questions, legal questions, and other practical questions by Lego Empire entitled Bricks and Minifigs Just Agreed to Pay Reckless Ben. Very good video, so we're going to review that today. Let's get into it today with Reckless Ben and what's going on.
I can't show you the actual video itself because it is, of course, on its Patreon. Ben in this video gives us a lot of good information. He goes over how his legal team and Bricks and Minifigs have been negotiating during this case.
I think the negotiations as a whole have been going on essentially for the last couple weeks. I think that in this case, it probably even started before Ben had a lawyer, which is probably some of the problem here. Is Ben and Bricks and Minifigs probably started negotiating without everybody in place. But the question is, for how long have Ben's lawyers or professional mediators, how long have they been involved in this? We don't know how much Ben is actually listening to his lawyers and doing what they're telling him to do, or what Ben is doing. You know, if Ben is doing Ben and Ben wants to do things his way. And that's part of negotiations.
And at some point during these negotiations, Reckless Ben's team basically pushed for Bricks and Minifigs to pay damages for every day that Ben was under the temporary restraining order. And this is something I've actually been bringing up, and I said that I hoped that Bricks and Minifigs would pay Ben damages for what has gone on.
And that wouldn't be unreasonable. He's not allowed to create content. He's out there not making money, not profiting. Right now, he could be very profitable if he was making videos, like, for example, look at my videos and other videos on this topic. They're getting hundreds of thousands of views. So if Ben can make videos, he would be making a lot of money. Not to mention, I hope he's factoring in advertising, sponsors. By the way, we got to run today's sponsor. So as always, we have an important message from Morgan & Morgan. Recently, a jury ordered Meta and YouTube to pay millions for their role in designing and promoting addictive platforms. They knew their apps could contribute to anxiety, depression, and body image issues, but did not share those risks while prioritizing profits. The recent historic verdict underscores the consequences of those decisions. If you or your child spent years growing up on social media and experienced serious mental health struggles, you should hear this. Morgan & Morgan is stepping up to hold these platforms accountable for the harm they caused. You can use the link in my description or scan the QR code to take a short quiz to see if you qualify for a case. You may be entitled to a potential recovery of over $1,000. And we're back here, and let's get right back into the reaction.
And if you're wondering what the reasoning that Ben's lawyers gave for this in the negotiations, it was that Ben suffered harm each day that he was silenced. And
you're not making money, you're not getting sponsors, you're not getting ads, right? This is all revenue that he could be making that, well, he's not making right now. And that's a big deal.
Grounds that Bricks and Minifigs got this temporary restraining order approved on in the first place were that Ben was doing some crazy stuff. Specifically, he references the bomb threat allegations and claims that Ben was going to, quote, Bricks and Minifigs stores, which...
And we all know that's BS. We all know that's a lie. I mean, obviously that was not going to happen. Ben was not going to do that. That's a false pretense, right? Trying to pretend that Ben was going to do that is absolutely beyond the pale. And that's where Bricks and Minifigs is just getting ridiculous, is by making those underlying things and saying, well, because some people called me, or so some disgruntled people called. Those people are not necessarily like working for Ben or attached to Ben.
And apparently, Bricks and Minifigs' legal team agrees with that and knew that the grounds this temporary restraining order was granted on were completely false, because Bricks and Minifigs' legal team seemingly agreed to the terms to pay Ben for every day this temporary restraining order continues.
Well, they're on the back foot right now, so I'm not surprised from a PR standpoint. They need to give ground, and it's safer to pay out damages. So I'm not too surprised that they agreed to do that, because Bricks and Minifigs itself itself is on the back foot.
Which I gotta say, this is a really good move by Ben's legal team. Because, at least in my opinion, it seems like Bricks and Minifigs' strategy since the beginning of this case has been, number one, silence Ben. Number two, keep it going as long as possible.
Well, definitely silence Ben. So number one, correct. Number two, keep it going as long as possible. Well, what they do want to do is keep the process, the legal process drawn out in hopes he won't create content during the legal process. The problem is that Ben is highly motivated to try to create content and get content out. There's obviously a profit motive, which is where the damages come in. And there's a PR standpoint of it looks like you're silencing people. And as Americans, we do not like being silenced. We like our freedom of speech.
And even when there were some joint filings from Ben's legal team and Bricks and Minifigs and other defendants in this case, there were clear grammatical and structural errors in these motions that would basically have any judge in the country deny them, because it's just like, what are you even doing here?
Okay, I'm gonna stop there. This is one where I'm like, I listened to this video and I'm like, okay, I'm with you. Wait, whoa, hold up. Okay, spelling errors, scrivener's errors, we call them scrivener's errors, other typos. We make mistakes, we make typos. That doesn't mean a judge throws everything out because you have a typo. A small non-material, an immaterial mistake like a typo or a comma or whatever, that's not going to make or break your case.
So at least from my perspective, it seems like Bricks Minifig's strategy has just been to keep Ben silenced for as long as possible and do anything they can to prevent the part 3 from being uploaded.
I do think that they wanted to stop part 3. I do agree with that. But at this point, I think there's going to be more harm from trying to keep him from putting out that content than there would be, in just paying him the just letting him do it, right, versus the damages. So they're going to have to pay these damages to him. Just let him put out part 3, right?
It really makes me wonder what the heck is in part 3. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
I mean, and maybe that's what they're negotiating right now. Maybe right now they're negotiating the elements of part 3, and maybe they've passed a version over and they are going over part 3 and saying, okay, cut out this part, edit out this part, do this. And they're going back and forth because they're saying this is defamatory, this is that. So it could be that Bricks and Minifigs is trying to assert some control, some editorial control over part 3. That's one thing. Once again, speculation here on what they're dealing with, but I think it's reasonable speculation. It's speculation that would make sense in the light of this contest between Bricks and Minifigs and between Reckless Ben.
Them agreeing to these terms basically goes against their whole strategy. If they want to keep Ben silent as long as possible, but then they agree to something that would punish them for keeping Ben silenced for a longer time, that's kind of counterintuitive.
It makes sense in the context of negotiation, right? So with ongoing negotiations where there's potential damages, they're kind of mitigating their risk here. They're essentially paying that money out, yes, because they want to be able to negotiate. They want to keep him at the table, but they do want to keep him relatively silenced because they don't want any more bad PR. They've already had enough bad PR. So they've got this, okay, we want to stop the bad PR on the same side as, hey, we want to prevent any damages here from, very validly denying him the ability to publish and to make money.
And Ben goes on to say that Judge Tony Graff, who was previously on the case in the Utah District Court, is super difficult. That's what Ben says, super difficult. And I'm sure we all have our own ideas on why Judge Tony Graff has been difficult in this case. But
I think a lot of people are giving Judge Graff a lot of flack. Now, mind you, this is potentially going to be removed to the federal court, so we'll get a new judge there. But that said, with Tony Graff, I mean, it looked like he was a neutral judge that had made some questionable decisions. So there were some decisions where it's like, okay, people can disagree with that. People can say he's, not stellar because of some things he's done. But you look at the whole of a person's record and what they've done and say, okay, is he blatantly biased, or does he, have anything that you can show me objectively that he's going to rule against Ben for sure here? And I didn't see anything in his record that showed that he was 100% guaranteed to be biased against Ben. So I'm not on the plane of jumping in and saying this is a horrible judge or he's super biased or he's made bad decisions. I'm saying, look, a judge can make bad decisions, and judges do make bad decisions and mistakes, just like lawyers, right?
And then Ben says that episode 3 is finished and ready to post. So it'll go up the moment the temporary restraining order expires. But something I am really wondering about is, now that this case is in federal court, what kind of bearing will the apparent agreeance of these terms to pay Ben for every day the temporary restraining order continues? Is that in writing somewhere? Like,
I don't think that's in writing. I think that's unwritten. I think that's something that's part of the settlement negotiations. So I think that at this point, that is not part of the official order. There's no official ruling on that. So that's something that they've just agreed to do, right? And haven't formalized yet. So I think that's the status of that, to answer his question, which once again, Lego Empire here, very good questions and really on point for what people would want to know. So I think I really want to applaud him for having good questions.
how concrete is that? Because that is huge. Because, you know, Ben deserves to be paid because he has lost revenue from not being able to post part 3 and other content on Bricks and Minifigs.
Very fair. He absolutely does have lost revenue that does need to be recovered.
And Ben goes on to basically confirm what we've all assumed, that Bricks and Minifigs has been delaying things for a while. So Ben has not gotten the chance to post part 3. He's just been delayed day after day, basically being told, okay, tomorrow or the next day you'll be able to post it. So now the case is in limbo. And
that's true. So essentially he's got this part 3 he's been sitting on, and that's the thing that's burning a hole in his pocket, is that he's got to get that out. He's already made, he's already invested his time in that. So that is very high priority for him, of course.
And Ben says he's, of course, confused about what's going on, the content delays and all of that.
Well, if Ben is confused, he needs to start speaking to his lawyers. I think that, if Ben is confused, there's a problem, and his lawyers are the ones who should be updating him. If he doesn't know what's going on, maybe when people are asking him these questions, maybe he doesn't want to learn about the actual legal side of it. I don't know. We don't know.
As someone who is not a legal expert by any means, this case has also confused me in many ways, and it's been a learning experience for sure. But now this case is...
It is a very interesting case. I think this case is one of the best cases involving a corporation, modern America, RICO, there's anti-SLAPP, there's all sorts of criminal stuff that's involved in this. And then, of course, what happened with the police and the police overreach, which is a whole separate thing. The America Forks PD, which probably has got to be its own episode. That's got to be its own thing, just because there's so much there.
Hands of Judge Cecilia Romero. I assume she is the federal court judge, and she needs to sign off before the temporary restraining order is lifted. And as soon as she signs off on it, part 3 will release as quick as possible.
And so we'll stop there with this one, because I want to get kind of hammer this point. By the way, amazing video. Check this out. I'm going to put that in the description as well for this, so you guys can check that out. A very important thing to remember here is, if this does go into federal court, it's going to completely change the rules, right? So we're going to have the federal rules of civil procedure. We're going to have, a lot of other stuff coming in. Of course, they're going to apply the anti-SLAPP law for Utah. So we're going to have a whole different set of things that comes in. So this could change the case wildly. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I know it's a little bit different type of content. So let me know if you enjoy when I do reaction content. If you like when I react to channels, including non-legal channels or channels just asking questions, let me know, because I want to see what type of content you guys like, because I do what you guys like and what you enjoy. So let me know in the comments below, and make sure to like and share the video. I'll catch you on the next one.